This may be too long for some people to read, but I had to share. This is the first time I am posting anything online about this. I'm a 31-year-old woman, married, and recently moved back in with my parents due to moving back to the town I grew up in. My husband and I are taking our time looking for our own place due to wanting something nice in the area, and that is usually hard to find. The story takes place in my parents' house, starting back 10 years ago. A description of the house for a bit of content. It's a 2-story, brick stone house, in city limits, but still surrounded by nothing but woods. You have to go through a garage that leads into the kitchen with the first bedroom to your left. Past the kitchen is the main living room, and to the right is the hall that is very open. In this area, you will find that the dining room and second living area, but if you continue straight, you will see the staircase to your left, and even further straight is my parents' bedroom and bathroom. Going up the stairs, you will come to the third living area. Yes, this is a huge house, with 2 sets of French doors side by side that lead to the outside balcony. Going straight, there is a sharp left, and this leads you to 2 other bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. This is where the story takes place. The first time I stepped foot into this house, I immediately felt off, like something just wasn't right. I felt a presence, but I didn't know what or who it was. I brushed it off thinking I was just reading too much into it. I continued to feel this for the next couple of years, and because of this, I didn't much enjoy visiting my parents. My parents liked to gamble a lot back then, so they would ask me to come babysit my baby brother and sister one day on the weekend. My boyfriend, who is now my husband, loved them, so he would always babysit with me. The first few times I really didn't pay attention to the feeling I would get because we would be busy playing or eating with the kids. After that, things kind of chilled out, and we would end up watching movies until it was time for us to go to bed. Now, my husband is a freak in nature. It's like he falls asleep the second his eyes are closed. Me, on the other hand, takes time, and it takes forever to get comfortable enough to wind down my mind. I also don't sleep well, even when I do finally get to sleep. This night was the first time I saw and heard something in this brand new house. In this room, the bed is facing the doorway, but not directly in front of it. With the double doors open, you could see the front of the staircase and all the way down the hallway, as long as the light is on, that is. This night, only one of the hallway lights were on. I was laying in bed with the TV on, but the volume down low, so I could hear if one of the kids called me. I was almost asleep when I heard one of my siblings coming down the stairs. I opened my eyes a bit and wait for them to get to the bottom, but they never do. I don't think anything of it. Close my eyes and begin to drift off again. A few minutes later, I hear again. So I open my eyes and wait, but again, nothing is at the bottom. This time I sit up and listen, a bit spooked, but nothing I cannot handle. I get a bit nervous, but still I go check to see if they are there, and maybe they are scared to come all the way down or something like that. No one is there. Confused and thinking I must be dreaming it up, I go back to bed, this time closing one of the double doors. It was a few hours later, around 2:30 a.m., when I feel like someone is very near me, as if they are standing next to the bed right in front of me. Usually, when I open my eyes, I would see the green glow of the alarm clock on the bedside table, but this time I saw nothing. It was pitch black. I couldn't even see the hallway light on, and the TV had turned off on its own. I felt like I couldn't move. I was awake now, and scared to my bones. I was finally able to call out my husband's name loud enough to wake him. He reached over and turned on the light, and right then, the scared feeling went away and I was able to move. I freaked out and started crying. I couldn't begin to explain to him what had happened to me, because even if I had, he didn't believe in those things. So I told him I was having a nightmare and asked him to go check the kids. When he came back, he said the kids were fine and got back in bed. With the lights on, I was able to fall back to sleep, but it took me forever. The next day, I told my mom about what happened, and that's when she told me. She had been hearing footsteps on the stairs at night, and even saw someone standing by the door at times. She didn't tell anyone because she did not want to scare the kids. This is when she told me what she had done. She wanted to know what was going on in her house, so she went and bought a voice recorder. One day, she decided to use it and went upstairs while everyone was gone. She asked your typical questions of, "Who is here? What do you want? And why are you here?" And then said, "You have passed away and need to go into the light. You are not welcome here." The next day, she decided to leave the recorder in one of the bedrooms upstairs while it was recording for about 4 hours while she was out running errands. I asked if she had checked it, and to my surprise, she said she was too afraid to listen to it alone. I wanted to listen to it. Off we went to the computer and began listening to it after it was uploaded. During the 4 hours she was gone, you could hear something clicking or tapping, sounds of a drawer opening and closing, but we weren't for sure. Then we listened to the part where she was asking questions. Now you could hear a sound that resembled a fan, or maybe static throughout the whole thing, so some sounds were indistinguishable. But the one sound we did hear chilled us to the core. When she asked, "What do you want?" it gave us an answer. The answer was, "Jamie." It didn't answer any other questions except for that one. I cried immediately. Jamie wasn't having nightmares for no reason. Something was there for him every night. Jamie was my brother. We soon asked a friend to cleanse the house. For a long time, everything has been okay. My brother stopped having night terrors. My mom was able to sleep comfortably, and all was good again. Until now. I have been living in this house for a month and a half. For the last 3 weeks, I have been seeing things everywhere, especially when I am alone. Because of this, I won't stay alone anymore. I get this strong feeling of being watched. I had the feeling of someone pulling on my blanket at night. I think it is time for another cleanse. Oh, and just an FYI, I am the 3rd generation on my mother's side of the family that is able to see spirits. My dad's side of the family has, in the past before I was born, practiced black magic. I don't like speaking to them, and I won't dabble in any of that spiritual stuff most people do. I stay as far away from it as possible, and I recommend that you do too. Even if you are careful, these spirits can haunt for a long time, even after you are gone. Update. So I'm sitting in the living room floor playing with my nephew. Mom's on the left couch and sister is on the right couch. My nephew has a toy piano that is made of cloth and can be folded up. This piano is behind us in the corner with all my nephew's other toys. We are talking and watching my nephew attempt to walk when his piano makes a sound. It's like someone is pressing the keys slowly. We stop and stare and then look at each other shocked. Then the keys are pressed rapidly until it finally shuts off on its own. Mom and I are not scared. My sister is terrified due to something happening to her last night around midnight. That is a different story I'll be posting tomorrow. This happened in 2011 when I was 7. I'm a girl, now 14, and I just talked to my mother about this incident and decided to share it. So, I lived with my grandmother, father, mother, and 2 dogs quite far from any town. The house was big, so I usually would play hide and seek with my mom a lot. I don't remember which month it was, so my mom filled me in on this. She said it was October, during the holidays. This one particular day, my dad was out driving my grandma to the hospital as she had had an appointment with the doctor, so I was left alone with my mom. After several rounds of hide and seek and watching a movie with my mom, it began to get dark outside, and my dad still wasn't home. I've always been scared of potential home invasions, so I was paranoid all day because my dad wasn't with us. He made me feel very safe. Me and my mom decided to play Monopoly. Fast forward an hour. When I was 7, I thought I was very sly, so I kept stealing money from my mom's stash. Now that I look back, she was probably pretending not to see. As I was taking a $50 bill from her Monopoly cash, she said, "The power will go out soon." This left me completely puzzled, as I had no idea how she would know this, but sure enough, it went out about 15 minutes later, and I started to panic, because as most little kids, I'm scared of the dark. I later found out that there was a power outage in my area because of a storm, and my mom was notified of it. She handed me the Nokia phone and let me play my favorite game on it, which at the time was Doom. She told me to go hide under the bed sheets if I'm scared, and that she'll be back soon. I asked where she's going, but she didn't answer. As she headed out of the room, she locked the door. I lay under the sheets, killing some monsters on the game for what felt like hours, but was probably only 5 minutes. Footsteps were heard in the kitchen, which was next to the room I was in, so I took off the sheets and I yelled, "Mom!" Glad that she's back because I was really scared, but no answer was heard. The footsteps didn't stop, so I yelled again, "Mom, can you please come? I'm scared." After I had said that, the footsteps had stopped completely. I got a sudden rush of adrenaline, so I held tight onto the phone and dashed out of the room to the kitchen, which was empty. I was left puzzled. but didn't wait for long as I ran to the door, unlocked it, as there's keys on the inside too, and ran to the corridor. Alright, so the corridor has 4 doors. On the right side, one at the very back which I never was allowed to go in. I later learned that the room was where my great-grandma died and no one touched it ever since. It also had stairs next to it leading to the second floor, and one at the front which led to the outside. The 4th door I came through was the closest to the outside door, so I quickly opened the outside door, ready to run out, but the rush of adrenaline was gone, and I got scared of the outside too. It was very dark, and I was barely able to see. My only choices were 1. Go back to the room I came from, or 2. Scream for my mother. I chose number 2, and started screaming for my mom over and over again. I guess I wasn't loud enough because there were no replies. I remember starting to sweat and panic. Different scenarios playing through my little head. Scenarios like a murderer killing my mom and coming for me next, or my mom leaving me forever. I know, stupid, but I was only 7 after all. I remember looking down at my feet and beginning to cry. More footsteps were heard, but this time behind me. I looked behind me and saw a silhouette of a tall person. I'm assuming it's a male due to the body build. At the end of the hallway, standing in front of the door. I can't recall what he looked like because it was all black. I stared at him for about 15 seconds in pure horror. This got my adrenaline pumping again, and I ran out of the door, towards the outside toilet, only to be greeted by my mother, who looked worried as hell. After I told her what happened through uncontrollable sobs, my dad was in the driveway, already parking his car. My granny was left at the hospital for some treatment. He searched the house, but no one was found, so my mom told me it was just my imagination, but I know what I saw and heard. Fast forward 7 more years, I live in another house, and I randomly remembered about this incident and talked to my mom about it. She seemed quite hesitant about telling me this, but at the end I convinced her to tell me. What she said gave me chills. Apparently, when I was 4, I started to stare at one particular corner in the kitchen and laugh like crazy. My mom asked me what's so funny, and every time I point to the same corner, but never told her why it was funny. After a few months, the random giggles I let out when staring at the corner didn't stop. What made my mom lose it was the fact that I started speaking random German words that I've never heard before. We have no relatives that are German or can speak German, and I wasn't introduced to technology at that age either. My mother knew it's German because she can actually speak a little, but never spoke much. She bribed me with candy to tell me how I learned this, and say the following words in German: it, help, chocolate, shower, and war. My response completely shocked her. I pointed to the same corner again and said, he taught me how. My mom kept her cool though. She asked me who I was talking about, and I said, the man who makes me laugh. My mom asked me what he looked like, but I only said he looks like a shadow and that he's from Germany. When she asked where the man lived, I pointed to the 2nd floor. This all made sense because I always hated the 2nd floor and never went up there because I felt like I was being watched. My parents took it upon themselves to Google the history of the house, and sure enough, it was built by Germans. I don't remember any of this, but my mom kept on reassuring me that it had happened. My father said he remembers it too, but decided not to tell me until now. I talked to the German man in the corner up until 5 years of age. I'm pretty sure you could put 2 and 2 together, but if not, the man I saw when I was 7 was the same man I talked to when I was 4. Every time I go back to visit my grandma, I always feel uneasy.